for a long time, anything that hinted of regime change or was regime change adjacent was verbiage that people at the State Department, diplomats, Americans really didn't want to say. Where has that ball moved?
Well, I mean, your question at the very beginning of this, what's going on in Venezuela, is still something we're all actually trying to figure out. I mean, the administration has moved very clearly. You had Kristi Noem today saying on Fox, Maduro has got to go. So they have been very explicit that they see Maduro as an obstacle to Venezuela's future. Rubio in his press conference was very evasive on this issue, saying, you know, the situation is intolerable, but not openly advocating for regime change. Kristi Noem takes it a step forward today. But we still don't really know the full strategy. So they're putting this pressure on these tankers. They're launching strikes on alleged narco traffickers coming from in the Caribbean and the Eastern Pacific. But what is that strategy moving toward? Is it an anti-drug effort? Is it a desire to boost Maduro from power? The administration has not said how it wants to get from point A to point B. What we do know, though, now is, going back to one of the terms that was famous from the time we worked together at the State Department, maximum pressure. And that really seems to be what it's about. We're
showing some images right now of just there's a wealth of videotape that's coming out of the Caribbean of us boarding tankers, blowing up alleged drug boats. Nick, let's focus on the tankers for a minute, because this third one kind of runs against the grain of the narrative last week in that we were pursuing sanctioned tankers. This one may be under a false flag, but is not on the list of sanctioned tankers. Can we legally take this thing?
Well, I mean, this is the question we are all trying to figure out, because this administration has been so aggressive in pushing the bounds of what is legal and what's not, and what we would consider to have been totally unacceptable in a previous administration. What they're saying on this one is maybe it's not about the tanker, but it's about the oil. So we have so many sanctions on Venezuela. We can't get you on the tanker, the name of the tanker, it being on some Treasury Department list, but we know its cargo is essentially something that Venezuela should not be allowed to trade in. So we're going to go after it on those grounds. So many questions here about the legal boundaries and whether a reason like that would hold up in a court of law. But what you see from this administration is they don't care. They're doing it. And, you know, a real big question on where things go from there.
The other question I had is, there are still legal oil tankers coming out of Venezuela. I mean, I was reading up today, a fifth of Venezuelan oil is still processed in the United States. Chevron is still operating there in partnership with PDVSA and a lot of places. Is there a risk to those tankers? If you were that company, would you want to put that oil on the water right now?
Well, we have seen a lot of shippers just turning their tankers around because they don't want to face those risks. I mean, it is a sort of fascinating dynamic about this that, yes, Chevron does have a general license that basically gives it not carte blanche, but they are allowed to do business because they have had over the years a lot of operations in Venezuela. And as you say, Venezuelan oil is really sour. It's really sludgy. It needs to be. It's hard to process. It needs to be refined. And the place where that has traditionally happened is in the U.S. So they have kept that channel open through a series of licenses. So it's expected that those tankers would be allowed to pass through this quarantine. They're calling it a quarantine, not a blockade, because a blockade is an act of war. But what we are seeing is that a lot of those other tankers are just turning around or not willing to risk it.
I guess we take all these tankers to Greenland once we get them all together, because he's not letting go of the bit on Greenland.
No.
Nick, the president said last evening he's naming Jeff Landry, the governor of Louisiana, who's not from Greenland, to be his special envoy in this case, because Landry, quote, understands how essential Greenland is to our national security. Presumably, Governor Landry read this on Truth Social and then issued his own statement saying, this in no way affects my position as governor of Louisiana.
Right.
Are we playing around here? Is this just something to distract us from another thing? Or are we actually going to annex Greenland at some point?
You know, I don't really believe very often in the distract us from another thing narrative on a lot of these. I think what you're seeing, though, is an administration, you know, when Trump came back into office, there was a lot of talk about Greenland. It was really in the news. There was a lot of tension with Denmark. J.D. Vance went there. Jr. Then it kind of faded away, and we all thought, and a lot of Republicans who were very uneasy with the president's desire to annex Greenland and the Panama Canal were, I think, sort of relieved that this had faded from the headlines. But what we're seeing here really is an indication that President Trump has not forgotten about Greenland. He wants Greenland, and he is going to keep pressuring this issue. So where this decision came from at this particular moment, we haven't figured it out yet. But what you can be sure of is that despite the unease, the feeling of queasiness among Republicans about this, the president has not forgotten, is going to keep pushing this issue.